Daniel Sports Central, we go over a college football game preview and prediction on the 2022 Alamo Bowl matchup between the Texas Longhorns and the Washington Huskies. Both teams have had great seasons getting to this point. Texas, one of the top teams in the Big 12 this season, as they went 8-4 overall and finished out as third place in the conference. They barely missed out on the Big 12 title game. They were just a game behind Kansas State, but still either way, a great season for Texas. They're taking on Washington, who has been a background team in the Pac-12 for the majority of the season. This team has really come around down the stretch, and they're playing as good as anybody right now. We'll be covering a full game preview and prediction on this match period today, starting with your team trends. Texas beat Baylor on the road, 38-27 was the final score there. Overall, a great win for Texas there, and they finished out the season once again at 8-4 on a two-game winning streak as well. This team was close to being in to the Big 12 title game, but Kansas State was just a game ahead of them. But either way, once again, still a great season for Texas. This team is ranked in the top 20 heading into this matchup. As for Washington, they beat their rival Washington State 51-33. They're 10-2 on the season with a 6-game winning streak heading into this matchup. This was a team that was 4-2 heading into the second half of the season. Of course, they started out the season 4-0, looking really good. Then they lost to UCLA, and then a bad loss to Arizona State, which put them at 4-2. And then this team is once again really come around down the stretch, and this is a really talented team on both sides here in Washington. They are ranked 12th in the country, and rightfully so. Games to be on Thursday, December 29th in San Antonio, Texas. Your kickoff is 9 p.m. Eastern. Spread's going with Texas by 3.5 here, over under 67.5, and the FBI is going with Texas as well, 75%. That kind of surprised me, seeing Texas favored as much as they are according to the FPI. I mean, I get the spread, but the FPI kind of surprised me. But, I mean, I get it too, the Longhorns being a team that's been so competitive all season. But then again, I feel like Washington, the way that they have played down the stretch, they definitely should. The FPI should be way closer than it is, considering where the Huskies are right now and how they've played down the stretch. Michael Penix, not a guy to underestimate, that's for sure. Series history, Texas leads at 3-1. The last game was in 2001, so it's been a while since we last saw these two teams play each other, but it has happened in history 4 times. Stat comparison, Texas is 16th in points per game, 20th in points allowed, 60th in passage a game, 23rd in rush yards, and then for yards allowed, they're 83rd in passing, 26th in rushing. So this is a team that offensively, they've been great this season, averaging 36 points a game. Defensively, they've in general been really good. They're in the top 20, allowing 21 points a game. But there have been a couple of games where this team has allowed a lot of points, but I mean, in particular, that Oklahoma State game where they allowed 41. But, I mean, this team in general, defensively, we've seen some really impressive performances too, like only allowing 17 to TCU. It was a loss there against TCU, but it still was impressive what the defense did against a really good TCU offense. And, I mean, even if you look back to week 2, when this team played Alabama, they only allowed 20 points there to the Crimson Tide. So it's something to keep in mind for this matchup, that's for sure. This is also a strong rushing team. But that is going to be something to keep an eye on here, because Robinson has actually declared for the NFL draft. That is Texas's star running back. He has rushed for over 1,500 yards this season and 18 touchdowns. He's not going to be around in this game, which is going to be, I feel like, that's going to be a huge adjustment for Texas not having him. I mean, you got a talented quarterback in Quinn Ewers, but I mean, not having Robinson around is going to be brutal here for Texas in this matchup, if you ask me. As for Washington, this team is 6th in the country in points per game. They're averaging 41 points a game. They're 72nd in points allowed, which they're allowing 26 points a game. They're the top passing offense in the country here with Michael Penix, who's once again just been outstanding this season. He's thrown for over 4,300 yards this season, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He deserves a lot more credit. I mean, this is a guy that's playing really well this season, and he's had such a huge impact on the Huskies. He was the Indiana transfer quarterback. He played at Indiana previously and had some success with them, but he's really had by far his best season with the Huskies this season. I mean, as shown by how this team is offensively, they're the top passing offense in the country, averaging 376 pass yards a game. That is nothing short of outstanding there. They're 83rd in rush yards a game, and then for yards allowed, they're 101st in passing defense, and not too good there, but 34th in rushing defense. They've been fairly good against the run. But obviously for Texas, they're probably going to be passing the ball a bit more in this matchup, considering they won't be having Robinson in the backfield. Recent matchups, Texas beat Baylor 30-27. They beat Kansas 55-14. Way to avenge the loss of last season. Obviously, Kansas beat Texas. That was a huge upset last year, but yeah, Texas said that's not going to happen again. They went to Lawrence and beat them up 55-14 there on November 19th. They did lose to TCU 10-17. That was a close game. Texas kind of hung in there, but couldn't quite get it done in the end. They beat Kansas State 34-27, 13th ranked team in the country at the time. And also Kansas State was the eventual Big 12 champion. But the week before they lost to Oklahoma State 34-41. And that was right around when Oklahoma State was really falling off. They were ranked 11th in the country back at that time, but Oklahoma State really, once again, fell apart down the stretch, and they're not even close to being ranked, currently sitting with a 7-5 record. As for Washington, they beat Washington State 51-33. They also beat Colorado 54-7, beat Oregon, number 6 team in the country there on the road. That ruined their playoff hopes, 37-34. They also beat Oregon State 24-21. Oregon State really came around down the stretch as well, and they beat Cal before that 28-21. So you look at Washington's last 6 games, their 6 wins. I mean, they're not all to bad teams. I mean, Oregon was a really good team this season. Oregon State was a really good team this season as well, and Washington beat both of them. They dominated Colorado. I mean, this team, once again, really just proved themselves to be a solid team down the stretch of this season. Your key points: Texas 8-4. The offense has generally been great down the stretch for the Longhorns, but once again, they are dealing with the loss of Robinson, who declared for the NFL draft. Something to keep in mind, but I still feel like this is an offense that they can still get it done, but obviously he is a key player that will be missing. But all 4 losses for Texas. I will say this about the Longhorns. This is a team that all season I've given them praise because of their close losses. I mean, while the AP poll and some rankings have had them out of the rankings for several weeks, I've actually had Texas ranked for the majority of this season, even through all those losses, just because their losses have been, I mean, really close, and they've been super competitive all season. I mean, you consider that 1-point loss to Alabama, the 3-point loss to Texas Tech in overtime. Turns out Texas Tech was a pretty good team this season. They lost to Oklahoma State by 7 on the road, lost to TCU, who's now in the college football playoff, by a touchdown. I mean, this team is 8-4, but they could easily be 10-2 or maybe even 11-1 right now, just based on, those close losses. If you flip a couple of those, I mean, you could definitely say that Texas is better than the record shows. And for Washington, a 10-2 team, I mean, both losses for them were within 1 score as well. You consider the 8-point loss to UCLA, the 7-point loss to Arizona State. Both of them were close. I mean, that Arizona State game especially shouldn't have been a game that Washington lost. I mean, that's a team that you should definitely beat, especially this season when they've been so bad. But it just didn't happen that way back in October. But, yeah, I mean, this team, they're 10-2, but this Washington team, I mean, they could easily be 11-1 or undefeated. Both teams, you could say, are better than the record show. But offensively, Washington has been and will be brutal to contain in this matchup with Michael Penix, who sounds like he's coming back for next season. So that is something to keep an eye on. The Huskies could be a big-time contender in the Pac-12 next season if that is the case, just by the way Michael Penix has been playing. And the defense for Washington, they've been inconsistent at times. That's been a bit of an issue this season, but otherwise, this has been a really great team down the stretch. That said, let's get the prediction here for Texas and Washington coming up here in the Alamo Bowl. I'm going to be going with the upset here. Washington wins this one 38-31. Honestly, I was a bit surprised seeing Texas favored in this matchup. I feel like, I mean, it makes sense. Texas being a team that's been so competitive all year. They've played a tough schedule. All losses have been super close, and they're still a talented team. But without Robinson in the backfield, I mean, and you got a Washington team on the other side that's got everybody playing for them. I mean, with Michael Penix in this offense and defensively, I mean, they can be strong as well. I mean, I just got to go with Washington here, 38-31. I do think we see more of a higher scoring game here for sure. I could see this being a shootout, quite honestly. But in the end, Washington wins this one 38-31. I just think they're too good of a team, and considering Texas doesn't have all their star players in this matchup, I think the Huskies are in a good position to win this one. Over under 67.5. I'll be taking the over for this one, and Washington to cover the spread in the end. Once again, I could see this being one of the more exciting matchups of bowl season. You got, once again, 2 great offenses. I could see this being a higher scoring shootout that could go either way, no doubt. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this matchup, and I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.